Hey, hope we're keeping well. Today I'm chatting with an old teammate of mine, Foster Horan, Lansdowne, Irish 20s, Irish sevens. Good to see you, Fozzie.
Well, nice to see you, Moylett. Been a while now, all right, but it's good to catch up with the big man.
Cheers, bud. Yeah, so how has, I suppose, start off, how have things been since you retired? So why you moved over to Sydney?
Yeah, so over in Sydney now. I think I'm 2 years now retired. So finished up after the Olympics in Tokyo. And I suppose, yeah, very different. Just trying to get back into like a regular routine of the 9 to 5 job. I'm working away as a physiotherapist now, so it's definitely different. You'd miss the crack with the boys, and I suppose that the training element. But it's I suppose the body doesn't it's not complaining anyway. It's nice to be able to get out of bed on a Saturday or Sunday morning and you're feeling fresh.
Yeah, what was it like with the training, like building up to the Olympics?
Look, it's definitely tough. It's it's particularly with sevens, like your high speed meters, your running load is so much higher than when you're in a 15s environment. So like I definitely, for me, when I transitioned into sevens, I struggled quite a bit with trying to catch up with that load, and I would have had a lot of injuries. But luckily enough, like had a good team and everything under us, and like I was able to, I suppose, meet the demands and sort of get my body up to that sort of capacity. And like likewise, then for the lead up into the Olympics, it was sort of a bit of a funny one, as it was just like right in the middle of COVID. Um, so throughout the whole of COVID, like we would have had, I suppose, a lot of online interaction, a lot of, I suppose, training in our own time. I actually, we took a load of like equipment out of the high performance center up in Blanche, like all the guys, that was all split up amongst the whole team. So I would have done like a lot of my own gym work out of like my garage at home, and then like I would have done like a lot of running and like a lot of building up of like suppose capacity. And it was tough, as like we didn't actually know what was actually going on. Like it's actually mental to think back on it, that pretty much the whole world shut down, and we no one actually knew like what was the training actually going to be for anything. Was the Olympics going to go ahead? And, like we even still had to qualify for the Olympics at that stage. So like we literally were like just training away on our own, like mind numbing stuff. Like we were doing like Zoom calls, like for like metcons and stuff like that. So it's just to sort of, I suppose, keep the morale going. But then obviously we got the news that was going ahead, and we had a big tournament to sort of play for in Monaco. I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks out before the Olympics. And luckily enough, got the job done there. And I suppose the resilience of all the boys that sort of pushed on through COVID and sort of kept up that training throughout. And then off the back of that, we obviously had like a quite an intense 6 weeks, or that like leading up to the actual Olympics. So it was pretty hard in the body, all right. But like it's always so much easier when you've got a group of guys who are pushing for the same goal. And I suppose after, it was refreshing as well after that sort of break off the over COVID.
Hmm. And when you mentioned their injuries, chat to me about that. So like what? Just you're pushing the body and just, getting what? Groins, hamstrings, different kind of injuries and pulling up and
Yeah, so for me, the big one was hamstrings. Like, as in, she's I couldn't. I couldn't get any luck at all at the start. Like it was both, even with Lansdowne and with the sevens. Like so, I think I started off in the sevens in 2015 when the program kicked off, and I actually didn't get my first cap till 2018. So that'll give you a good idea of, like, there's 3 years there of just like hamstring after hamstring, just it kept going. I remember. like there was a stage I couldn't even get a run of 2 or 3 games at Lansdowne because I'd pick up some form of knock, like just somewhere obviously unlucky, like as in like I think I'd done like an MCL or like broke my jaw and like all different things like that, which like obviously control that.
Well, I think I can. I think the sound's gone there. Yeah.
Yeah, the earbud just fell out there. Yeah,
Yeah. No, good now.
you hear
I'll
me
edit
now?
it. Yeah, I'll edit it.
Sound. Yeah. So for in terms of like hamstring wise, like I was just that running load. I suppose I'd come back, and when you're injured, there's always something to come back for. So you're trying to like get back as quick as you can, and then you're just obviously increasing that risk of pulling up again.
Yeah, that's something real interesting because it's funny, like you say, no matter where you are, who you are, what team you're playing with, there's always like something. If they say it's a month, 4 weeks, you're like, there's a game in 3 weeks. Or if they say it's 6 months, you're like, there's a big game in 5 months. And I think no matter who it is, there's always something to be getting back for quicker. And something I found, I was in spending a couple of days with Leinster there last Christmas around that time, and they said something return to perform versus return to play, or that's their idea. And that was the first time I'd heard of that. And it's you don't go back till you're, I suppose, what, 95% or till you're ready to be your best.
Exactly, and like I think that you're dead right in terms of return to performance. When I came back, when the seven sort of developed into more of a full time role and into more of a professional role as obviously we moved up the rankings, um, definitely like the management team started pushing a lot more of that return to performance. And like I even remember, because in my head I was like, if I can run, or if I can hit over 90%, I should be able to just jump straight back into the team. And because like it's so important to play those games. But a big part of the management, particularly around me, was like you have to you have to hit that 90%, but then you also have to have a running load of 3 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks under your belt before you can actually get into training or get into game time. And I suppose that's huge because all you're doing is you're building that capacity to be able to get back into, I suppose, the demands that you need for the game, rather than like being able to sprint, but then you're straight into like your change of direction, your I suppose high volume, your exposure to them high running speeds. So like it was a big part, I suppose, that the management team, like they would have just managed me a lot better, particularly in that professional environment. And then I was able to get the run of games under my belt. And once you have them run of games, like you build up that resilience, as you know yourself. Like
Yeah, it's the way to go, I think. Like I look at soccer sometimes or having the pass and be like they fall over and they take a week out or 2 weeks out or like, but
yeah.
I understand in that they're they're over precautious because they play 50 games a year or something, and they know that if someone tweaks their hammy ever so slightly, like Marcus Rashford or someone, they're not going to roll him out in 3 days time. He's going to take a week or 2 weeks out. And rugby, like when we were growing up, obviously if you had a leg hanging off you just still played. And but I think it's just not, it's not the way to go about it. And I know you're talking about like Olympics, like top level professional, but even I think at lower levels, if you're whatever amateur playing for fun and you want to play with your and you're all banged up, whatever. But yeah, for long term, like it's just it really, looking back, like when I was there, I would have still played probably at different levels. But like it's kind of not worth it, isn't it? Not.
Oh, sure. Sure. Remember Prendo in Lansdowne? Didn't he fractured his clavicle or
Yeah,
something, and he played half the year on
yeah, a
it?
broken shoulder.
You take a few anti-inflammatories there, if you gets the scan at the end of the year and it's fractured, like, and him tacking
Yeah,
down in the front row, like, oh my god, what a help,
jeez.
like.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I
But
remember
like
that.
that's the thing, like everybody's carrying enough, like, and they're sort of just pressing on with it, aren't they? Like they're just managing it as well as they can.
Yeah. I think as well as I suppose you want it so much as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you just want to get out there and play, like, and if you're like, I don't think anybody's ever at 100% when they're playing, particularly towards that end of the season. But if you can manage, if you got the strength there and everything, you can sort of push on with it, like.
Yeah. And it kind of I think it needs you need like you said or like you had good medical team that were monitoring you and holding you back because I think you need to be held back because every player will if they feel 85% good they're going to say I'm playing, you know.
Oh, you're dead right. Like, as in that decision, like, of course, a part of it's going to be with the player, but I think a lot of it has to come through that management and through that, I suppose, the physio and the doctor and everything else to know how, and even your S&C and your GPS and sports scientists, so that they know exactly what, like, that's how it definitely has come on some amount, like, as in even when I was in that sevens program I seen accelerate some, like, serious amount to the detail that they sort of managed us, and it made such a difference in terms of, like, because I just know for them 3 or 4 years that I was struggling, like, to even get a game, like, then to turn around and being able to play and back that up, like, which is huge, and it's, I suppose, a testament to the management that looked after us, like.
Hmm. And so you were full time, were you?
Yeah, so we were full time pretty much. I'd say it was probably pre 2018 we went full time. It was sort of, so I'm trying to think now back to my dates. I We started in 2015 and we would have worked our way up from Division C, B, and A in Europe, and then to get into the Grand Prix, and then from the Grand Prix we had to you had to finish one or two. I think we'd won it anyway, and you go to Hong Kong, and that's sort of the big tournament where if you win Hong Kong, you're into the World Series. And for our first year in 2018, I think we went pretty much professional that year. And unfortunately, we didn't get it the first time round, but the second time round, we did get it. We managed to qualify for the World Series. And then since then, it's just been each year step up, step up, step up. So I suppose it was very much so, like, our main goal was to get on the series. Once we got on the series, the main goal was to get to the Olympics, which we've done. And then from there it was more like, let's go win a World Series event. Let's go try get on the podium in the Olympics. Like, so, like, I know the guys that are in there now, and they'll have goals in terms of, like, obviously they've qualified for the Olympics a year out, which is huge, because when we qualified for 2020, we had 5 or 6 weeks to prepare for one of the biggest tournaments in our lives. And like we had put all our energy into qualifying for the Olympics, as, like, we had to play a very good French team. Like, there was like Tonga, Samoa, like some really good teams at that qualifier that we managed to win. And then our goal, I suppose, changed so quickly to being like, okay, now we have to go try win an Olympics. And you can't really do that in 5 or 6 weeks. Like, so, we always said it's so important for the next squad when they're going for the Paris 2024, that they get it the year out, and they've managed to do that. So I just know them guys now, like, everything they're channeling is towards Paris 2024 and getting on that podium, and, like, they're easily capable of doing that. Um, but I suppose it's just about putting all in processes in place to get there. And, like, that's the one thing I loved about the sevens, is there was always a big goal to go to and, like, go after it. And, like, a lot of the time we always got there. Like, we managed to smash them goals. And, like, I can even see that with the group now, that they still have them goals and they're still going after it. Like, and there's nothing better. Like, even when we were in Lansdowne, it was the same. Like, you have that goal of winning that AIL, and, like, when you're with your best mates, like, pushing for such a big goal like that, there's no better feeling when you actually get there, when everyone puts in the shift together to actually get there. And I suppose it takes I suppose some really good mental strength to sort of, as a group, to sort of get everyone on the same page and sort of to feed into that, which is obviously huge in elite sport. Like,
Yeah, there is nothing like it, isn't there not? When you're part of a team, a kind of a high performing team, when you know that you need to be at your very best all the time, and you're with other guys who are doing it as well, and for you to have a chance of achieving your goal, yeah, like I said, you need to be just dialed in all the time.
oh, and like it's huge, and I think a lot of that comes from the players. Like, I know the coach definitely outlines a lot of the culture and the way to drive the team and everyone, but then again, it comes down to the players that drive each other, and I suppose that it's a really tight knit group that everyone's like good mates. I think makes a huge difference, to sort of push that in the right direction, and obviously a lot of your leaders that are pushing that, like, and like, you can see that, like, that was always a good thing around with the sevens, is there was, I suppose, a good bunch of senior guys, and like any young guys that came in, like, they very much quickly knew what direction we wanted to go. And I suppose that's really important, that you've got that injection of youth coming in, but also you've got that sort of senior group to push it. And like, it was the exact same in Lansdowne. Like, you could see that with the likes of, like, you had like Boucher, you had Scotty, you had these guys who were the senior guys who obviously pushed the direction. And then, like, at the time, like, we were probably the younger guys coming in that were sort of trying to push it, like, their goal, like that goal together. And I suppose that like, I suppose for that period of time in Lansdowne showed that sort of dominance, or that sort of winning mentality that we had. Like, and I suppose, like, that's a big thing around, like, driving that culture, and that I suppose winning mentality.
100%, 100%. And it's a great point you make, and kind of what you're getting to there, like the balance of squads. And sometimes how on the outside looking in, you can be like, why did they pick that fella? Why did they pick that fella? Say for I don't know, England squad, Ireland squad, whatever. And like you said there, the kind of two or three older lads, and then we, I suppose, we're young, and then in the middle, we're in the middle for a bit then, and then you had younger guys like Keane Keller and Max Deegan, like these young guys coming out of school who were just class, but they were obviously 18, 19. And it's just that balance of kind of old, middle, young, and you need it. You can't have, yeah, all young, all old. And that experience is something that when you're young, you don't realize. You just, when you're a young lad, say when we were playing 20s, you went pretty quickly into the first team, but like you kind of think, geez, I should be in there ahead of him. And you're like, I'm better than him. But it's like, Mike or the coaches know, like, you just need a couple of older heads.
Oh, you 100, like, just some of them old smarts make a big difference, isn't it? Like, you can even look at Australia, like, for instance, like, like,
Mm,
they're not a bad side, but they didn't really have some of them older heads that they needed to sort of, I suppose, help direct the young guys. And I suppose it was a bit of a flop then, their World Cup off the back of it, like.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And a great point you made earlier about the energy. So like you qualifying 6 weeks out from the Olympics. And I remember at the time, once again, like just I was following it or just keeping an eye on it, but whatever, I was living in Vancouver and I was like keeping an eye and saw you qualified and I was watching that and then I was like, oh, the lads now they could go and do something. And it's so true you say about like when you put all your energy into something and then the next week you got to go again. It's so difficult, and you saw this with was it New Zealand in the quarterfinal in 2019. They put all their energy into the Ireland match, and then England smashed them. And then England
Mm.
in the semi-final put all their energy into the New Zealand match, and then the Springboks smashed them. And it's managing that energy is so interesting for teams, for players too, because when you get to like people say, go to the well or whatever, whatever, it's so hard to just go and do it again.
Yeah. Like, I suppose our mindset around the time of that Olympics, was, we've played a big tournament in Monaco, and like the other teams hadn't, and we were like, okay, we're sharp now. We're in a good place. We're gonna go in. We're gonna like really push this because we're after having that sharpness. But I think what we didn't realize is the actual toll that tournament took on us mentally. Like as in, like that was extremely stressful. Like it was a one shot opportunity to get to the Olympics. Like as in, I just remember even before games, I was rooming with Fitzy actually, and I was actually shaking, like my hands were shaking before the game because I was like so nervous, and he was like, "Man, are you all right?" Like he was looking at me like, but I I honestly, I think that really took more of a toll than we thought. And not that we were naive, but like we were definitely a lot more confident than we were. And then I think we just when we a couple of results weren't going our way, we sort of didn't perform to where we really wanted to. But I know the lads definitely that experience really stand to them now before Paris, and like it'll be a huge tournament for them now. I'm looking forward to seeing how they go.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then like I can fully understand like how you would be like because sevens it's just it's one sport nearly in the world. It's borderline nearly like darts where it's like you can miss it by this much and then it's done and it's over. Like sevens literally a bounce of a ball. It changes the whole tournament. You know, it's like you can prepare as best as you want, but there's really is a big element of fortune to an extent in sevens, and that just adds more nerves to it. And like you said, that was the biggest thing in your life ever, like to go to an Olympics. You know, it was I could only imagine.
Oh, huge! And like on that point, like as in like it just goes to show how honest you have to be every time you play. Like as in if you're a few percent off, any team will knock you. Like any team will knock you down. Like as in you have to be 100% all the time. Like and that's why it's so impressive for the likes of like New Zealand and Fiji who are so good like that they're always so like they're so mentally switched on when they get on that field like so it just goes to show like how tuned they are. Well, Fiji are probably just more physical sickos, but like that New Zealand team are just so switched on. And like that was, I suppose that's a big thing that we always found as a group, which is difficult, is like like in 15s, like you could be much better than another side, and if you weren't 100%, you'd still get over the line and you'd still win. Whereas I find in sevens, it's so short, and if you're not right, like 100% switched on, then if, as you said, if you bounce the ball, a team starts getting up on you, like even a team that'll be lesser than you, and then a bit of doubt creeps in, and then very quickly the game's over, and you've lost. So like it's so important for every game, and like you have to do that 6 times in a weekend. So as you said, going
Mm,
to the well, like so it's really important that I just that was the one thing I found about sevens was like obviously the physical end of it is very tough. Like you're playing 6 games in a weekend, like you're literally like high tempo as hard as you can, like with 6 warm-ups, like you're physically like drained after weekend, and then you have to turn around and back it up for another weekend, and like so 2 weekends in a row. So by the end of that 2 weeks, you're absolutely dust physically, but the mental side of it I found very tough because at least with 15s you have one game, so like you're building that whole day for that game, and like you've got that nervous energy, and like you're trying to get yourself in the right mindset because you're going to have to go out and try and kill someone in essence, like you're going out for a physical battle. So like your mind, like it's like you're like, okay, like even if you're playing like a nothing game, you're still going to be a bit nervous because you have to get yourself up for a physical fight, like. Whereas with sevens, you have to do that 6 times in a weekend. So you literally have to like go through all that nervous energy, like build yourself up. Okay, I'm gonna have to go out and smash somebody. Like like build that energy, play 14 minutes, and then you have to try and like shut your mind down, shut your body down, rest, because like you're just trying to like decompress, like everything down, like sort of settle down, and then in an hour time or an hour or two time, you're trying to do that again and build yourself up again. So it's like such a roller coaster of like emotion and everything else as well. So it's look, it's tough going, like, and at times you're just like it is a mental battle because at times you're like, oh, I wish we didn't have to play now, like, or but especially if, say, for instance, if you haven't gone so well in your pool and you're playing, that lower tier, like there's
Oh
nothing
yeah,
worse. Whereas if you're going into a quarter final or a semi final, like it's so much easier to get up for it. Like so, it is such a big mental battle throughout the whole weekend.
absolutely. Yeah. And is there anything you did in particular in the lead up to games to get up for them, or right after games to slow down and to relax?
I suppose every individual had their own way of, I suppose, get like 15s. Everyone has their own sort of way of managing it. Some guys would be like very quiet and sort of wouldn't talk a whole lot. Some guys would just love to talk. Sorry. Yeah, so some guys would love to talk and sort of, like sort of talk through the processes and stuff. Like I probably was a bit of a talker, and sort of I'd like to get it like a really good warm up in. Like I always found like I had like a lot of like nervous energy before the game, like as in like I'd be shaking or I'd be like, like I'd be very, very nervous. But then as soon as got out to do my warm up, that had all be gone. Like, I think I was more just wanted to just get going, like, rather than like I hate that sort of sitting around waiting for the game. Like I just wanted to sort of get out and play. And then, after the game, I generally like I'd try and like I get into an ice bath straight away, just try to shut your body down, like as in try and even calm the mind, like talk about the games, for a short period of time and like review it really quickly and then sort of try and put it to bed, whether it was good or bad, and then sort of build from there, like.
Mm, yeah, and that nervous energy, like you say, is not bad in that it's adrenaline going through your body, and it's something that I remember, when I was a young lad, and I got a hold of it then in my, I don't know, or 20s or whatever, but you'd be kind of fighting it. You'd be feeling nervous, and you'd be getting your head going, oh no, and you then get into a spin, you know?
Yeah. Someone told me like a while ago that it just shows that you care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you really enjoy it and that you care and that you want to get out and play. And like once just I suppose you channel that in the right way, that it's like this is actually a good thing that I'm feeling this, that I'm feeling that nerves energy. It just means that like this is I suppose my process of preparing my body for battle as such. And then I just remember as soon as you'd step out to warm up, like that'd just go like, and I'd just be like, okay, right, I'm ready now. I'm in the perfect position. But I suppose it depends on what way you look at it. Like as you said, when I was younger as well, I used to, I'd be like, I hate this. But then I sort of learned to love it. Like so, even now, like for instance, like I play a five-a-side on a Tuesday, like I'd still get a little bit nervous before I'm going out to play a bit of five-a-side, but like it's a good thing, like because it's like God, like obviously it's nowhere near as high stakes as what I used to play, but it's still good to get out and to get that bit of energy, like that nervous energy, like as such, like.
Oh, 100%. You feel like you're living. And I similarly, I am, like, I go to the gym, whatever, but I do talks now for teams and like events or whatever. And like, I'd be, like real nervous before it as well. But like, I'd just be sitting there breathing, like being like, this is where I want to be. And, you feel like, I feel nearly like I'm going to have to play a match, like I would have back in the day. But you love it.
Yeah, it's cool. It is. It's a love hate feeling because it's a weird feeling, but it's good for you though. Like as in because it just shows that you really really care and that you want it to go well. Like so, it's good. It's a good feeling to have. Like.
Yeah, 100%. And another one with last on that, but the calming down and calming the mind is something, yeah, so important. And like you said about going into the ice bath, and what the ice bath does is it makes you slow down your breathing. And I think that's, well, thinking, oh, that's a huge part of it, that slowing your breathing down to then down regulate. Because like what we're talking about is firing up your nervous system before the game, and like we're saying, like our nervous systems, your nervous system would have been so fired up that it's overwhelming. I know it myself, and people find overwhelming, but that's good. And then after, you want to get that nervous system calmed right down. And yeah, it's cool that you were doing the ice baths, but breathing is something like, yeah, before a game, if you're fired up too much, that you can slow down the breathing, or after the game, you definitely want to be, yeah, slowing down your breathing, which will slow down your heart rate, which will slow down your nervous system and help you relax and recover.
Yeah, and like that, I think that's such a big game, definitely sevens anyway. As in because if you're still like a high, like if you got a lot of like that nervous energy post game and carry that for an hour or two, like that's taxing on your body, taxing on your mind, like and it's, I suppose, over a weekend you need to make sure for 14 minutes that your mind and your body is in the best position possible so that you can perform. So like little things like the breathing that you said, the ice baths, even things like even talking to the lads about something different other than rugby at all, or even a bit of banter like that can just sort of, I suppose, change your mind off, because you do need to switch off for them for that time period. And then obviously whatever it be, like the hour before the game or something like that, or half an hour before the game, that you're starting to tune in and sort of get back to where you should be, like.
Absolutely. And something, if someone talked about energy now about 10 years ago, I'd have said they're a hippie and they're mad, but you need to bring awareness to your energy. So like how your body is feeling, like the energy within your body, like you're saying, after one of those games, if you are still up, like I remember playing Friday night games, I suppose we'd be having a few pints after, but even if you didn't, you'd be wow, you'd be buzzing for, you'd just be buzzing after a game for so long, and it's hard to
Oh,
get down. But sevens, I can imagine even more so, like the adrenaline, and you need to bring awareness to your body and how you're feeling, and yeah, calm that down as quickly as possible.
mm. And it's something I definitely learned I had to deal with. Like I remember I played an Irish under 20s game. Actually, the first Irish 20s game I played, we were playing Wales actually in Athlone, and I was a nervous wreck before that. I think I built it up to be something more than what it was. And I definitely underperformed in that game. Like, I sort of let it get the better of me. And even that night after the game as well, like I was up until like, because it was a Friday night game, I was up till like 5 o'clock in the morning, like, and I suppose I did let it get the better of me, like a lot of that energy. And I suppose it is very, very important to be able to manage that. And like, I suppose even to sort of make an example of, I suppose even like the likes of the Irish team now who are in the World Cup, like the amount of pressure that they're under, but I know they have, is it Gary Keegan? Is it,
Mm,
they've got, like he's worked with like many Olympians, like he's like a big performance director.
mindset and
I suppose
performance coach, yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So like he's involved with the guys at the moment, and I'd say his job is so important right now in terms of making sure that they're in the right mindset. I suppose pushing throughout this World Cup, like. And you can see they're performing seriously well so far anyway. So hopefully we can keep pushing on.
Yeah, 100%. I'll put this podcast out now. I have a few more backed up, and I'll put this one out quickly, because if I'm keen to chat about Ireland. But something I was thinking as
Yeah.
well is they've been incredible. Like that first game against Romania, incredible. And then even though they beat them by 80, even though it's only Romania, but they were sharp, weren't they?
Oh, they've been very, very good. Like I'd like to think we'll put a good score in Scotland. I'd like to think now, but look, I suppose they're taking every game as it comes, and they're building on, like they actually are building really nicely as well, as in terms of like good start to Romania, like even getting big score up against them, then beating a good Tongan side, then obviously that shift against South Africa, which is huge. So hopefully we can push on against Scotland, and then whoever we meet then quarter final wise. I'd
Yeah,
say it's looking New Zealand. I say there's some buzz over there, is
it's funny. It's interesting. So over here, I tell you, the amount of people I've met who are like Ireland. Oh, I like Ireland, and my granddad was from Ireland, or my friend's neighbor's brother was from Ireland, and so I like Ireland, and so many of them are like genuinely. up until over the last few weeks, and they like the way Ireland play. And it's funny, I don't know, when the All Blacks aren't going well, and don't shoot the messenger, but I've only been here 6 months, but they've no time for them, or like they're like
Yeah,
they
they
not
write
happy
them
with.
off,
Yeah,
but I don't know whether they're just doing that to try and like it's a mind game. Like yeah, that's why like I know the people like you know what I mean, but like as in like I was only over in New Zealand like last week as well, like over on a holiday, and like even talking to the people around as well, they'd be like, "Oh, I think you will beat us in the quarterfinal." Like they keep saying this, like, and I'm like, "That's like it's not gonna be that easy." Like,
yeah, me too. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. And another thing I saw the All Blacks documentary. They put. Did you see any of those? They put out these documentaries. The All Blacks like kind of documenting their
actually, I
last
haven't.
year. But anyway, something Richie McCaw said in it. He was like, the people expect you to be the best and number one and dominant. And if you fall short of that, we know that there's an expectation for you to be that. And so there's such huge expectation that that's what a, a lot of that drives them to be what they always nearly always are, is just so good. And
Mm.
so like there is pressure from the public, like and I can see it now, and it's interesting that yeah, they're aware of that, and or he mentioned that, and that yeah, that kind of drives them to be the best.
Mm. Oh, definitely. Like, and it'll just be interesting to see how this all sort of pans out, I suppose, because on that one side you've got obviously ourselves, New Zealand, France, and South Africa, and then possibly Scotland, depending on how everything goes over next week. But like, I think whoever comes out that sort of side is going to definitely push on. Like, like it'll be one of the four anyway who are going to win it. Like I'd imagine.
Yeah, yeah, Fiji, like Fiji, England, I think is the other one, and England will look like they'll beat them the way Fiji played against Portugal.
Yeah.
Fiji definitely were complacent. Like they were nine, or sorry, they played against Georgia, like 9-0
Yeah.
down, and they must have knocked on about 50 balls, like, and get ripped in contact
Oh,
and everything.
mental, like there's I suppose there's a stress on them now as well because they're in a really good position to push on. So you'd wonder are they going to? Well, they should be Portugal, but you wouldn't know. Like it could be a big banana skin there as well. Like
Mm. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And going back, I was just thinking before coming on, we probably first met Leinster schools or training there, or else playing
yeah,
against each other else Kenny. But I suppose chat about your journey, because didn't make that squad, or did you? You're kind of in and out of Leinster underage squads, and then obviously look, you went to the Olympics, you played Irish twenties, all that. But yeah, I suppose because there's so many. I just do talks with teams and stuff. And there's so many young lads that like they don't make an under 16, 17, 18 team or something, and it's like the end of the world and all that.
yeah. So I would have played like Leinster schools, 18s, then 19s. I played as well, but then the 20s I was sort of I would have been like I would have been on the bench for the first couple of games. So we played Munster, was on the bench, like came on, then played actually Connacht, you guys, who bet us. And then off the back of that, I suppose like the fact that you had beaten us, they made a good few changes. So then I managed to start against Ulster and actually had a really, really good game, which actually got me into like the Irish twenties off the back of that. So like if you lads didn't actually beat Connacht, or if Connacht didn't actually beat us, so if you lads didn't beat Leinster, I may have never got to play Irish twenties off the back of that. Like, so it's mad like how certain things that happen give you certain opportunities. Like so, as you said, like it's I suppose it's just taking the opportunity when you get it. Like
Yeah, it is mad. Just you saying that, I just thought about when it's funny. I wasn't in the Irish twenties, and then towards the end of the season with Lansdowne, the number eight, I think Kieran Essex or someone had diabetes or something, and like was got sick the day before the game, and I was at the UCD ball, and we were like drinking vodka at like noon, and I had a couple of drinks in, and then Mike gave me a call and was like, "Oh, come play tomorrow," and whatever. This was after going down, and I was like, "Cool," on the bench, and then I rocked up, and Bouch was late. He was late to the game. It was like last game of the season, I think, or second last. And like, who
It
knows
was
about what Bouch was
Clontarf,
there.
was it, in the
Yeah,
Viva?
in the Aviva. Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like starting eight, didn't know any of the calls, didn't know anything. And I remember Mike, he was really good. He was like, "Don't worry about it, young man, just play." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just like played and like balled out, like it was like throwing offloads and everything. And then Mike was like, "Oh, come to the Irish 20s camp next week." And I was like, "Cool, cheers."
No way.
Yeah, it's just it's
Unreal,
fun.
like.
It's funny how now then I didn't go to the World Cup as like injury reserve, but it's funny how you kind of don't know. I don't know. You don't. You just. I don't know. You just gotta, like you say, take every opportunity and just play and have a crack.
Well, the way it is as well, though, like at the end of the day, it's a coach's opinion whether if you're better than someone else, and like like I probably found like the fact coming from Kilkenny, probably similar to Ross Cray, like you're not really in the shop window compared to a lot of the Dublin schools, I suppose. And like you just have to work a bit harder, I suppose, to sort of try and get yourself into that window. And I suppose that's where Lansdowne like really helped me out, like a good bit in terms of because there's a lot of guys who come from every sort of background into Lansdowne and sort of then if you like it, they don't really care as long as you're like good enough, like, and they sort of help push you, I suppose, to try become a professional if you can. You can see that with like loads of guys like that sort of happened with Lansdowne, sort of, I suppose, didn't really get picked up, like at the first try, and they played with Lansdowne, and then pushed on. So like like some like Matt Healy and Craiger and stuff like that, like so. I just always found it was a good place, like
100%, hundred
yeah.
percent. Yeah, and it's so true. You mentioned about it's one coach's opinion. That's something once again I didn't get when I was younger. Like you think if you don't make a team, you're like, I'm shit, I'm useless, and it mustn't be and whatever. But like it's I see a coach and now it's like, yeah, it's like literally one coach. And it could be anything, it could be a case of like, say you playing on the wing, they wanted someone who was more of a full back, high ball person, whereas just a different style player. It's
Which it's like even like Peter Lydon's another good example. Like he was
yeah,
like he wasn't getting really any game time in Ireland and stuff, and he went to play with Sea Point. I remember a time I was like, "What are you doing, mate? Like, why are you going to Sea Point?" Like, because he was playing twenties and stuff in Lansdowne, and I would have thought naturally he would have tried pushing the seniors, but he went to Sea Point and then ended up getting tried with Stad, then pushing into Stad Francais. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's mad how these opportunities just come about, like, and push you in the right direction, like. And like he's been professional now for what, the last 10 years.
yeah. And for those listening, Lansdowne, what we were playing in was the top club team in Ireland, essentially, winning all Ireland leagues and the one below the pros. And a lot of players would always go on and play in the pros and would be academy players. And then, yeah, the level Leiden. I had him on the podcast last year sometime, but
That's right.
he essentially dropped down like four divisions to play senior rugby. We were playing 20s Colts, they called over here. Once again, a class team, like full of Irish underage, all that. And yeah, and I think it was a coach, because I remember the same thing. I was like, what? And he was like, oh, this coach at Sea Point said, I think it was the coach said that he knows someone in Stag could get him a trial. And he
Yeah,
went and he,
that was, yeah. He was over kicking with Mornay Stain then. Yeah, which is
yeah,
crazy.
wild. It is wild. Yeah, I think you gotta follow opportunities as well, then, is another thing.
Yeah, yeah, to chase them up, make sure that they happen.
Yeah. And you mentioned when we were texting there over the last couple of weeks, you get a couple of concussions playing and towards the end.
Yeah, so I don't know. I suppose throughout my career, I would have had the fair share of knocks like anybody has had. Like, but recently or throughout the end, like I was picking up. They were coming on a lot easier. Like even like a glance, and like a lot of my symptoms were coming on. And I suppose that was probably a big part of the reason why I sort of finished up as well, in terms of um, I to be fair, like they managed it really well in the sevens, in terms of like I had to do a lot of vestibular work, a lot of like neck strengthening work, a lot of I suppose like medication and stuff like that, just to help in terms of like to get on top of my symptoms. But for me, like there was a like a specialist who said to me, look, when you're finished, like, it's just time to finish. Like, just to not, I suppose, run the risk of any sort of further complications further down the line. And like, even still, like, yeah, like I think I was saying to you, like, at times, like, it was a lot of time, like, if I'm doing like an interview or something where I'm having to like think or sort of bring on, like, I'd still get a lot of like the symptoms that I would have had in terms of, um, like some visual disturbances and stuff like that. Like, but I suppose it's gone a big part of the game now. I suppose around concussions, and you see a lot of the lads wearing, I suppose, the M Pros, because I actually would have worn M Pro as well to sort of try and help minimise the risk of that sort of onset concussion and stuff like that.
Mm. And yeah, what kind of stuff are you doing? So it's in the neck strengthening, and what else? You just mentioned vestibular. What kind of stuff is that?
So the lads actually used to take the piss out of me over this, but like I'd certain exercises in terms of like, so with like your balance, like, so like sometimes like I'll get hit and I'd lose my balance and stuff, but a lot of around your balance is, I suppose, you've got your proprioception, which is the feedback into the ground. You've got your visual, obviously that has a big effect, and then you've got the vestibular system in your brain, within your ear. Okay, and the big part around your vestibular system is making sure that, like, a lot of so you've got three different sort of areas that you have to keep the crystals aligned. Okay. So, like, you might think I'm talking all over the place, but now, but like a lot of the stuff I had to do was like I'd be walking up and down the room, like turning my head side to side, like head up
Yeah.
and down, like a lot of stuff with my eyes, like in terms of like concentrating on like a letter on the wall and like turning my head and stuff like that, just so that I could sort of try and train my vestibular system in. So if I ever did get like a knock, or if I did like any sort of contact within rugby, like it just meant that I wasn't going to lose my balance, like, or I wasn't going to get dizzy through there, because it just, and like, to be fair, it worked really, really well. Like, it did definitely minimize my I suppose dizzy spells, or any sort of visual disturbances or anything similar. And like, it wasn't just like one thing. There was like, a good few different I suppose interventions that were put in that made a big difference through, I suppose, getting me through a lot of the games.
Mm. Yeah. It's it's like say yeah. Yeah. It's obviously coming to the game. It's a big thing now. Understanding it, and I think it's a good. It's obviously a good thing, but I think more and more people just need to take people off when there's a chance they may have got a knock, because I still see it at levels that aren't elite levels, where there aren't you know HIAs or this, that, the other, and it's just like just playing on. Whereas I've pulled off a couple of players, like I'm like, no, he needs to go off, and then like, most of the time, then later in the day or the next day, I go, oh yeah, I did get a knock, and the other coaches kind of like,
Mm,
oh, I don't know about that, I'm not sure, and it's like, well, it doesn't need to be not sure, and the
yeah,
problem is that when you are a young lad, like you say, you can like when I think back, like the amount, and you'd be the same, the amount of times you get hit and you'd be dazed, but you keep playing, like that was just regular.
yeah. Oh, happened the whole time. And like, the good thing is the management is getting so much better. Like, it is getting so much better, but I think it still has a good bit of the way to go in terms that, definitely at the amateur level. Like, the pro level is like, it's super well looked after. Like, as in, you've got all your process around the HIA, your doctors on site who run all the tests, like, and like, as in, like, when I was with the sevens, like, there was never any issue. And like that was one of the things that the specialist always said to me. He was like, as soon as you leave the program, or when I left the program, he was like, do not play amateur level rugby, whatever you do, because that's when you're really going to put yourself in big trouble, like, because you don't have that level of care at that level. Like, I know the hits probably aren't as big, but it doesn't take a big hit necessarily to do the damage, like, so I suppose it's important that we get that good level of care at that amateur level as well.
Yeah, like absolutely, and that's the thing that I once again didn't realize either. It was after COVID, like it's rugby stopped where I was for COVID, and then I went back, and I thought nothing, but I think once or twice I was a bit dazed, and like just tackles that weren't massive shots to the head, but like you say, I didn't really think about it. I don't know. I didn't really think that was a concussion, but I suppose if you're thinking was that or not, it was, and it's something that just for anyone listening, be it a player or coach, like yeah, you just have to err on the side of caution, and like it's what really does frustrate me as well is we talk about this amateur level, and like look, we all love playing, we all love winning, but I know that there's a lot of coaches especially, that will want to win more than they will want to be certain of the player's safety, and that's a
Mm.
fact, and I've seen it over and over again. And players, it can be a bit different because when you step onto that field, you just feel like a warrior, and you're just like you won't go off, and it's hard as well. Other players, if you see a teammate get a knock, take to get him off, but it can be hard as well when you're just on the moment. But coaches, physios, people on the sideline need to be aware of it. You see someone get knocked and they stay down for 3 seconds or 4 seconds. It's not because they're lazy. It's not. Like
Mm.
yeah,
And that was a big one for me, as in, like, as I remember, like, when, like, I started getting all my symptoms and stuff when I was in it was actually when I played a JCT game back in school, like, so when I was 15. um and like I still, like my symptoms are always the same, like get a knock, I get like really bad deja vu, then 2 or 3 minutes later I have a big massive blind spot on my left eye, and then afterwards I have a mad cracking headache, and sometimes you get dizziness and stuff. But I definitely, the early, like a lot of the early days, like I would have played games like I wouldn't be able to see out of my left eye, like, do you know what I mean? And like it was, I remember I was laughing because sometimes I'd actually play better if I did get a knock like that. And I remember that they saying to me, "Oh, we may hit you with a hammer before you go out for a game on the head," like, like messing. But like that's what, that's like, obviously as I got on, I learned that, like, that's obviously we shouldn't be getting that, and we should just try and sort of sort that out. But like, as you said, like when you're playing, you don't really think of those things. You sort of just push on through them, like.
yeah. And my opinion, everyone has their opinion, but like I love the game, and I always have, and I always will. But it's like it does give you something else. Like some people are like, oh, should you play or not? And like there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? When you're young and you've just so much, I suppose, testosterone, energy, and want to be just out playing, and it's yeah, it just needs to be managed. It just needs to be managed.
100%, yeah. And look, it's getting way better. Like, even compared to when I suppose we started to play, like, at a decent level, like, compared to where it is now, like it's definitely got 10 times better. Like, over
Yeah,
over the course of that 10 years, like, I just seen there's been a big definitely increase in the management. It's been so much better.
100%. And fair play getting the physio degree. And so, talk to me about that. Like, I remember you're in DCU when we were playing. So, what was the journey to being a physio?
So yeah, so I done sports science in DCU, and I completed that, over, I think it was a 3 or 4 year, and then I went in to do a master's. It was a 2 year master's in UCD, but I'd done it over like a 3 year period because I was with the sevens, and to be fair to both the sevens and UCD, like they were extremely good to me in terms of like helped me around my placements and stuff, because the placements was probably the hardest part of it, because we had to get over 1,000 hours of clinical placement. So like I would have completed that on like off season, or managed it throughout the season. Like if we had like I suppose not a big competitive time of the year, like I would have, worked like half day Monday, Tuesday, full day Wednesday, half day on a Thursday for the clinic, like in terms of like in the hospital, and then I would have trained throughout that time. Like so between both the sevens and the what they call them UCD, like they really dug me out and helped me to get the degree. And so I've just been working away at that now. Like, and even like when post COVID, like I was working as a physio as well while training for the Olympics, so that was tough work like throughout that period. But it was good to do, because I suppose it gave me good experience that I was able to I suppose come over here and like pick up a good job then off the back of that, um, which is ideal. So like the good thing is like I'm managing a clinic out here at the moment in Sydney, in Movement 101. And it's good because I'm able to, I suppose, use all sort of experience from all my rugby background and being in different professional setups, I suppose, to try and like again build that culture, build sort of that direction for the clinic to do well. Like so, it's been a good experience, and it's working out well now. Right?
That's class. Fair play. Anyone in Sydney, if you get a get injured, get over to Fozzie.
Yeah, movement 101 botany lads, call in and look after you. Get a
That's
little
it.
plug in there.
Yeah. And what was it? When you're doing that placement, your 1,000 hours, are you getting paid or no?
No, you're not getting paid for clinical placement. No, it's all just for educational purposes. I actually done I did one of my placements in the IRFU. I don't know about Orla Armstrong, so it was actually really good, and I still use a lot of stuff today. So it's obviously class then, because Andy was also in there. I was working with Andy as well. He was with so I was sort of working across sort of the women's 15s and the sevens sort of program sort of, and it worked well in terms of like around my training as well, and with obviously educational purposes. So it worked out. It was lucky enough to have that opportunity.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, I remember when you turned pro, was it 2018-ish or around there somewhere? There was, I think you were going to
Yeah.
go pro the year before, and then you didn't, and then you did, and all that. And I remember there was a couple of news articles about like the pay and, like how little you were getting paid and how difficult it was. There's a lot of talk around that. So like, what was that like? Because you to live in Dublin, and how was that?
So yeah, that was the thing, and so that's why I was saying earlier. I had to work during sort of COVID, right? That I suppose the time we were going for that qualifier for the Olympics and for the third Olympics, and I just remember, so like I'd work. What did I work? I worked a full day Wednesday from 8 in the morning till like 7 o'clock or that in the evening, and it'd be like like I'd see 20 patients in on a Wednesday, like, and I'd see him on like a Tuesday evening or Thursday evening, and like like that Wednesday is meant to be a day where you're off your feet and you're resting, and but whereas I was in a clinic like going through 20 different patients, like so I could uh try get some extra income in, and like it was tough, like as in I remember like like as in myself and Greg O'Shea always actually we always mess around, like we always say, oh, we love a bit of hardship, because just love getting down and dirty when you're in the middle of like training, like and like you're having to head off and get get stuck into to work and stuff. And like I suppose like I always, like I say to people, I don't like using the word stress, because I think it's such as negative I suppose like
connotations.
association with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So like I always just call it hardship, like because there's nothing wrong with getting a bit of hardship, like that way. So, um, like it was obviously tough, but like at the same time you were, I suppose, playing rugby for your country, and like you do anything you can to try and do that. Like so, I suppose the big goal was to get to the Olympics, and if I obviously needed to have some sort of financial income for that as well. So, because as you said, like you're living in Dublin, and you're trying to get everything in line as well. Like so, look, I think it's definitely improving for the lads now. Like I think they've upped the pay over, I suppose, each year with their performance improving. They add a little bit more on, like, but still, it's probably not like what you'd sort of want. Like a lot of the lads would have a job alongside playing with the sevens as well, because it's not as lucrative as the 15s game. And look, I suppose that's because it's a new sport in Ireland, and it is definitely growing with I suppose the success of the team, and that's a big thing for the lads as well, and for us when we were there was to try and put sevens on the map. And I suppose the best way about doing that is off the back of success, and by I suppose winning gold medals at Olympics or winning World Series. So that's exactly what the boys are trying to push.
yeah, good stuff. And you're so spot on about like hardship, and it's so true. It's like I often, yeah, think so. One thing I say to myself, I don't really say anymore because I just have completely gone out of that mindset. But in the past, I don't know, a couple of years ago, where I'd be like doing something, I'd be like complaining to myself in my head of like, I used to say this thing is like, Brian, there's someone climbing Everest right now, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like cop
That's it. Like
on, cop on.
no matter how bad you have it, someone else is always way worse. Like
Yeah, yeah, and that I think a lot of the pain we suffer is like is the stories we tell ourselves, like complaining to ourselves, like, oh, this is so hard, oh, this is, and don't get me wrong, like we're, privileged and, we can, whatever, we're talking about playing sport, we're talking about working, like, it's like some people have, there's people in the world that have far tougher things, not saying that, but like a lot of people who don't have those tougher things, like me in the past, I know, as I said, I would have complained about certain things, like, Brian, what are you at? Like, cop on.
yeah, just keep going, keep pushing on. Like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I think as well, sometimes, I don't know, whatever, at the age I am now, 31, you get a bit soft. Like I think back when we were playing Leinster schools, I used to get a bus up from Ballina that took 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and I loved it. Like, no bother, no bother. And then another Dublin bus. So I'd be up at like 6, and then you train for 5 hours, bus home, and then twice a week. And then like in Lansdowne, like going to the gym at 6:30, and then working, and then going out training. We were like 3 nights a week on a Wednesday as well, the forwards, and like, and then it's funny, then sometimes nowadays I'd be like getting tired. I'm like, Brian, would you ever get a hold of yourself?
Get on,
Yeah.
100%, man. Like, as in, likewise as well. Like, I actually there the other day, I tried one of them running sessions we were doing over COVID, and I nearly died at the end of it. And I was like, how the hell was I doing this every day? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, yeah.
What would they have been like? What would a sevens, yeah, like conditioning been like?
Oh, it's tough, man. Like, as in, I always think a good tester for you to know where you're at is with these, they're called 120s. So it's you start on the try line, you run out to the far 10 and back. So you run out 60 meters and back, and you have to do that in 20 seconds, and you have 20-second break, and you have to do 4 to 6 reps of those. And if you can do those and be getting in under the 20 seconds each time, like you're in a, like, I think that's a good tester for your fitness. Because I remember like we'd be doing them in 18 seconds, like like, but I was like I done here the other evening, like I was like, is this pitch really long or what's the story? I was like, I was like, oh, killer, like,
You must have been on a Gaelic field.
yeah, exactly, yeah, wrong markings or something, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And are you still? So you mentioned five aside. Do you still? train or play or do a bit?
Yeah, so I gym a bit, all right. Like, and I've I've been playing a bit of five-a-side, as I said. I done a city to surf there. It's a fun run, like a 14K, and I've done a bit of training for that. But I just find the long runs are it's not the same. You're not chasing the ball or something like that. So I'm doing five-a-side, and I've signed up to some tag rugby and touch footy for the summer now over here. And then other than that, like I always get out and I do a good bit of deer shooting. So I got out when I was over in New Zealand there as well, which is pretty slick. So just doing like loads of hikes and stuff like that around here. But it's I suppose still trying to find something to, I suppose, get get the I suppose that same sort of fitness levels you're going to get off the sevens or off rugby. I don't think it's hard to find something similar to that. Like I suppose that the tag and the touch footy and stuff will probably be something similar to it, but it's tough like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you got find sport or something. I'm similar. I go like F45 5 mornings a week, but it's like
Good man.
but it's literally it's like that. It's 30. It's kind of 5 minute, a few minute warm up and a few minute cool down, like 30 minutes or 35 minutes. It's nothing hectic. But I was thinking that I was
Yeah,
like, I need to do more, but I don't want to be doing running either. I don't like half marathon, that kind of stuff. I did a couple of half marathons just my own in Vancouver. It just doesn't do it for me, just running.
yeah, yeah. No, I feel like I feel like I need to try and get something, sports orientated anyway. Like, I don't really have the touch as a soccer player though, so it's not
No. You just, yeah, batter someone.
great. Yeah, not a rapist touch on me, like essentially.
I was thinking, I was thinking of doing jujitsu because you see a load of people doing that, but
That that's huge over here, man, isn't it? Like it's very,
yeah,
very big down this end of the world. Yeah, there's
but
a
I
lot of
just think,
lads who actually a lot of ex-rugby players get into it. Like,
yeah, so I just need to strengthen the neck because I still like 18 months later. I think it's my posture as well. Like I have to do different things, but like, um, yeah, like just get like a bit, I don't know, you slight bit foggy in the head after in the evening, and it's a posture thing as well. Like my head sticking out, like a lot of people do. If you're on your phone or on laptops or whatever, it's something I'm aware of. But anyway, I just think I need to strengthen the neck before I be getting into jujitsu if I can smashing people in that.
yeah, fair, fair.
Not that I was ever too keen on tackling or any of that carry on, but yeah, I was trying to avoid it most of the time.
More the tap and go fella, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, my heart was singing when I saw the big fat Fijian prof doing a tap and go the last day, and then I was like, "Oh, my
Straight out of
man!"
your playbook.
Yeah, I was like, "My man, my man!" And then he lost the ball, and then I was just laughing. I was thinking, That's definitely what people were thinking when I was playing with them."
That's
Actually,
that's what you were doing, 100%. Like,
yeah.
oh,
Well, great chatting to you. Great chatting.
yeah.
Great catching up.
No, unreal. It's been a pleasure, man. It's unreal.
Cheers, bud.